animal hospitals and have had doctors trained to take care of the animals. The government or the king also has the noble duty to inspire the people in virtue. The king is compared to the leader of a herd of cattle. The people are like the cattle who follow the leader. If the chief bull in the herd takes a wrong course, then the other cows will take a wrong course. If the chief bull goes the right way, the other cows will go the right way. And thus the king or the ruler has to be himself a model of righteousness and virtue, and thereby inspire the people to follow his example. The king also has the duty to provide wealth to the poor, to make sure that everybody is economically secure. And also the king should learn from the wise, from monks, recluses, Brahmins, and sages. He should not be proud and arrogant because of his high position, but he should turn to sages for advice and guidance, especially to those monks who are distinguished by their learning, by their piety and wisdom. Thus, we see that during the golden age of Buddhism in South and Southeast Asia, the great Buddhist kings have always had a distinguished Mahathera, a senior member of the monastic order, as his special advisor to give him advice and counsel on moral and religious matters. The last issue of the Buddha's political teaching that we will deal with is his approach to the problem of war. The Buddha teaches clearly and explicitly that to rule in accordance with Dhamma, the ruler, the government or king, has to avoid aggressiveness and attempts to conquer by violence. The Buddha himself once prevented a war between two states in the India of his time, the Koliyas and the Sakyas. These two lands were divided by a river, the river Rohini, and both wanted to divert the river for their own use. Because of this conflict over the use of the river, the two sides became hostile to one another, and they were prepared to go into battle to fight to take possession of the river. The armies were lined up on opposite sides of the river, and the Buddha learned about this. And both of these people were his own kinsmen. He himself was a Sakya, born in the Sakya land. His mother was a Koliya. And so the Buddha himself was related to people of both sides. When the Buddha learned about the impending conflict, he came onto the scene. He called the leaders into his presence, and then he asked them. He said, "Tell me, what is the value of the water in this river? Is it of very great value?" Both said, "No, the water is really of very little value." Then the Buddha said, "Tell me, what is the value of human blood?" They said, "Oh, the value of human blood is very great. Human blood is precious and priceless. Then the Buddha asked, he said, "Tell me now, both of you, are you ready to shed all of this human blood to slaughter each other just for the sake of the water in this river? Is this a sensible thing to do?" When they were asked this, they said, "No, this is absolutely senseless." Thus they both gave up their weapons, they became friends, and they lived together in peace, sharing the use of the water in the river between them. Time and again the Buddha teaches in one way or another that violence must be avoided, that peace can never be established by force and conquest. The Buddha says that when one side conquers another, the conqueror only breeds resentment in the one who is defeated, while he himself has to live in constant anxiety, worrying that he will be defeated in turn. Neither side really wins the battle. The conqueror also loses, since he can never find happiness, never be free from worry and anxiety through his victory. Peace, the Buddha says, can only be found by stepping outside the vicious circle of conquest and violence. The real conqueror for the Buddha is not the man who conquers other men, other nations, and other societies, but the man who conquers himself. The Buddha said that if there is a warrior who conquers in battle 1,000 men 1,000 times, his conquest is very slight compared with the conquest of a man who conquers one man, namely himself. The man who conquers himself, his desires, cravings, anger, and delusions, he is the supreme victor in battle. And the Buddha teaches that there are 4 kinds of conquest that his followers should make. That is, they should conquer the evil person by means of goodness. They should conquer the liar by truth. They should conquer the stingy by giving generously. And they should conquer the hostile man by love and by goodness. For it is only by love, the Buddha teaches, never by hatred and violence, that hatred can be brought to cease. It is only by peace, by patience, by kindness and compassion, that the cycle of violence and revenge can be brought to a stop.